Hey everyone, welcome back to the other side of weight loss. So, oh my gosh, now 10 years ago, when I first started my journey into the keto and paleo health world here in Canada, nobody had heard of it. And I mean, nobody. I was alone in my world in primal diets. And searching online for information about it was actually hard to come by. And I remember very clearly painting a bedroom in my new house, and I had found what was called a podcast. And at that time, still, there was nothing, there was hardly any health podcasts. I had never heard of podcasts. No one else had heard of them either. So this was a new thing for me. And I remember listening to Livin' La Vida Low Carb with Jimmy Moore interviewing Mark Sisson. I remember very clearly everything they were talking about. So I am super excited to share this interview with you guys today. The man that started it all, the king of low carb himself, Mr. Jimmy Moore.
The old guy in the community, as I've been called.
You're not the old guy in the community.
I have been around a long time.
Trailblazer, Jimmy.
Trailblazer. I'll tell you, I've been called the Keto OG as well. So I'll take all those titles.
Well, it's cool to have you on because I feel like that was, what started my journey to where I am right now.
Nice.
Yeah, I would never have thought at that time I would have my own podcast about
nobody does.
Keto or paleo.
Nobody does. When I lost 180 pounds in 2004, if you'd have told me I'd be a 3-time international best-selling author, the longest health podcast, running health podcast in the world, inspiring millions of people, I would have just laughed in your face. So, but that's the testament to the passion that you have for your audience and trying to get the message out. And it's all I've done my whole career.
Yeah. And that, you're not just I've got your little bio here, which is amazing. You're not only the host of the longest running health podcast, you're also the host of Jimmy Rants, Keto Talk with Jimmy Moore, and The Doc. Do you still have that one going?
Yes, it's Dr. Will Cole is my host on that one. It's my Thursday show. It's my most popular show. It's the one we get the most people listen to.
Nice. And what about Fasting Talk with Jimmy Moore and Friends?
Fasting Talk ended, but the content is still out there if they want to look it up.
You've interviewed over 1,300 of the world's top health experts, and you've dedicated to your life to helping people. You are the international best-selling author of The Complete Guide to Fasting, The Ketogenic Cookbook, Keto Clarity, Cholesterol Clarity, and Real Food Keto. Did I miss any?
Oh, yeah. There's a few more in there.
I thought so.
The Keto Cure, Keto Clarity Cookbook. There was one, I've written so many books. It's hard to keep up with them, but there's a bunch of books.
I'd miss some.
Go look up Jimmy Moore on Amazon. You'll find them all.
Yeah. I read Keto Clarity. I read it when it first came out, and it was like what really got me into the ketogenic diet at that time.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Can you believe it has sold 600,000 copies?
Wow.
And been translated into 19 languages.
Wow. That's really cool. You wouldn't think that a keto book would be translated into that many different languages.
Not by a layperson. I wrote most of it. Dr. Eric Westman was my co-author, but I wrote the things. So,
yeah.
So that's what I'm most proud of, is that book is kind of my legacy in this world.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's great. So when you first got catapulted into this world, like you said, you lost 180 pounds. Did you start actually as like knowing that you were doing keto diet, or did you start at like Atkins or just low carb?
Yeah. So January 1st, 2004, I started on the Atkins diet. So I had read my mother-in-law, Christine, my wife, her mother gave me a diet book for Christmas.
Great. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks. Hint. Okay. Got it.
I like all kind of diet books, but this one resonated and I decided to give it a go. But yeah, it was the Atkins diet, and lost 180 pounds that year. Kind of, is what kind of got my name out there. Wow, this guy lost 180 pounds, and he talks pretty good, so maybe we should listen to him. And actually, what's funny, I was a writer better than I was a speaker. I've had to grow into the speaking role, but I've always been a pretty decent writer. So, yeah, and then you just build on top of it, and built this monstrosity of a brand, Living La Vida Low Carb. What's funny is it started off as a kind of riff on Ricky Martin. Now, if you type in Living La Vida Loca, you actually find my stuff. That's what's kind of funny about it.
That is pretty funny. I love it. So in the last couple, you lost 180 pounds. And in the last couple of years, the world has watched as that weight has slowly been creeping back on again. And I know that you and your wife are about to take a 6-month sabbatical, really to deal with this and to take care of your body. I'd love for you to, take us back to when that began. And was there something that triggered it? Looking back?
Karen.
Oh,
it was
Jimmy.
Sweetie. 2008 was a big moment that was traumatic. And I want to underscore this because as I've been slowing down heading into the sabbatical, it's gotten me a lot more reflective on why, number one, I got obese to begin with, and then why did I start regaining weight? So the regain actually started way back in about 2008, just before you heard my Sisson interview. My brother, Kevin, who at the age of 32 had 3 heart attacks in 1 week that nearly killed him at 32. Very, very large man, obviously heart disease hitting him hard and type 2 diabetes. And he was in and out of hospitals, defibrillator, the whole shebang. And at 41 in 2008, he died. So I don't think you lose your only full-blooded brother and it not impact you.
Oh, yeah.
And, before we came on the air, we were talking about kind of stress being the big bugaboo that nobody talks about when it comes to weight, but it was traumatic, that experience. And I don't think I ever recovered from it. Mm-hmm. I never really properly got to grieve it because I was in the midst of my work. And this is, I'm doing podcasting, but other people have to go back to their normal job, take care of their families and living the day to day, and you're grieving and you have nowhere to put that grief. So where does it go? It stays internalized and it manifests as stress, which then kicks in cortisol and kicks in hunger hormones, which then makes you eat for comfort. And then you eat. Am I stepping on anybody's toes here? Because that's the kind of thing that even within a keto, low carb, paleo, primal context, you can overeat the good stuff too. It's going to be just as detrimental. And that's probably some of what was happening to me. And then my wife, Christine, and I were trying to have kids as well. Shortly thereafter, had always wanted to have kids. And we had an IVF ICSI that didn't work. Then a couple of years after that, we did an embryo adoption. We got pregnant with twins and we lost the twins at 2 months.
Yeah, that's so sad.
We don't put enough emphasis on trauma and its impact on how our bodies respond, but our bodies are very sophisticated survival mechanisms.
Yeah.
And the moment we think that our bodies are fat because it wants us to be grotesque, you just don't understand what's happening. The fat is on the body as a great protective measure. Mm-hmm. And while it's disgusting to us to look at and we feel bad about ourselves and society judges you for that, oh, you're not cutting calories enough, you're not restricting enough, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. At the end of the day, it's really more of an indication of what you've gone through in your life. Mm-hmm. And the longer I've gone through this, Karen, the more I've come to the conclusion of I am where I am physiologically today because of all those things, which is why we're going away for 6 months. Take away the stressors, take away the things, and ostensibly the weight should come down. But more importantly, the inflammation and all the other things that might have led to the weight get released. I'm working with a life coach to try to deal with some of the trauma. I don't think people put enough emphasis on all the non-diet things that go into this.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. Was there correlation between how you gained the weight prior to losing it back in the early 2000s? Like, can you look back and be like, oh, this is shit that I dealt with back then and now it's resurfacing?
You ready for me to get real with you on this podcast? Here it comes. I was beaten as a kid, both physically and emotionally, by a dad who had an alcoholic dad that beat him. And my dad didn't drink alcohol, but he still had the anger that he saw from his dad. So then he passed that on to me. And at some points, we always wanted to have kids. At some point, I'm thinking, okay, I'm really glad I didn't have kids, because I might have maybe not physically hit them. I would have verbally abused them. I had to deal with a lot of stuff, and it happened mainly in my 20s because I got the heck out of the house at 17, went right to college, graduated college in 3 years, and was just trying to find myself. And throughout my 20s, I was in such pain, always looking over my shoulder, thinking my dad was coming after me. And see, nobody talks about this.
No.
Nobody gets real about like what the genesis of why you get there to begin with. You're not a glutton. You're not a sloth. You're not lazy. You're in pain.
Yeah.
And when you hurt, some people turn to drugs. Some people turn to alcohol. Some people turn to sex. I turned to food. And for me, the crappiest food I could find. And I remember, Karen, days where I was just putting stuff in my mouth just because it had become such a habit. And what started as trauma eating turned into addiction to that food and mostly refined carbohydrates, which then got me fat and sick. And then society says, oh, just cut your calories and exercise. And that's not the problem. The problem was the trauma. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how many people have gone through trauma. Now, maybe you weren't physically beaten like I was by my dad, but I guarantee you a lot of people started as emotional trauma. Yes. Something happened in their life and boom, started eating the crap, and you're downhill from there.
Yeah, people don't really, they don't, obviously they don't want to look at it because it's so much easier to say, eat this, eat that, exercise like that, and the weight will come off. And then they're wondering why they can't lose the weight or why they gain it back. And it's like, if you continue in this vicious circle, you haven't got to the root of the problem. I'm sure the keto diet fixed your sugar addiction and your carb addiction, got your health markers to where they should be.
Yep.
But it didn't fix the trauma.
Well, and the trauma has to be resolved. And the interesting thing is the more that I've been, what's funny is slowing down heading into the sabbatical has brought so much flood of emotion. Yeah. Because I think I had put up such tall walls of protection that I wouldn't allow things to hurt me because of that trauma. The trauma built the walls. But then once I got attention being a public figure online and all the negativity that can come from that, the walls got even taller. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm kind of slowed down and going away, now the walls have come down. It's like this flood of emotion and just random thoughts have just been flooding me. And
yeah, you're not keeping super busy either, right? Like
right.
You've been able to shove that stuff down by keeping busy and going nonstop and so hard for 15 years, and your body's going, nope, no more.
And the good part of that, the blessing in that, and I want this to not be all gloom and doom, the blessing of that is we got some incredible resources out of it. Keto Clarity would have never happened had I not had that work mentality. 1,500 plus episodes of the Live and La Vida Low Carb Show would have never happened if I didn't have that kind of go, 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 go. But this is something that probably even Mark Sisson would admit to you. Being a health leader is not healthy. And you sacrifice a bit of your own health. Sorry, Karen, to break that news to you as a health leader.
I know, trust me. I feel it.
Yeah, so, and people don't recognize that. It's one reason I've been on the way out the door, I've been trying to encourage people, if you get benefit out of some health leader, you got to tell them. You got to love all over them, because those of us that are in this space, we get all the negative and we don't really get much of the positive, at least not enough to go, whoa, it's much more significant positive. So I've been kind of preaching that message, not just for my own sake. Obviously, I'd love to see it, but just all the people that mean something to you, they need to hear it. And I think it would prevent having to go away for 6 months for me. But I am going to learn in the day-to-day how you deal with this a little bit better.
Yeah. I interviewed a woman by the name of Irene Lyon on my show. It was for a women's empowerment summit that I did with Elle Russ. And she's a nervous system specialist. And I had her on because she was one of my biggest aha moments in my own life, where I heard her speaking on her YouTube channel about what happens to our nervous system when we have trauma and how we get stuck in the fight or flight space inside our brain. And she said, we get stuck there. And then it's a water, and most people will go there, they'll fight, they flight, and then they come back to baseline. She said, when you've had trauma, whether that's one large trauma or many small ones, you get stuck in that place. And she said, the effects of that, she says, it's like a waterfall effect, what comes down into the body. And she said, it will show up in many different ways, whether that's weight gain, migraines, chronic illness, autoimmune conditions, pretty much any disease. And she really believes that all disease kind of stems from that emotional place, right? But trauma especially will manifest itself inside the body in different ways for each person. And it was like, that makes so much sense to me. And when you're talking about your trauma, and I see that you were probably there, and you've probably stayed there as a means of even self-preservation, and this is what's happened to the body because of it. Because
I think we don't recognize that nearly enough, because people think it's all just head stuff.
Yeah.
So if it's in the head, it can't manifest physiologically, but that's ridiculous. It's all the same system. The mind, the body, the spirit, the emotion, everything is just interconnected. So if you impact one, which is why I surmise the emotional abuse I had was far worse than the physical abuse, because I was literally told you'll amount to nothing, you won't turn into anything, you're not good enough, you need to go away, you need to die. I've literally heard all of those things when I was a kid, and that leaves an impression very indelibly in your brain. And when you have that impression in your head, it's reinforced by all of hearing it over and over and over again on replay. I can't tell you how many times I heard things said to me, thousands of times right here. Mm-hmm. And that can't physically not have an effect on the body.
Yeah,
100%. I think that's when the weight gain really became bad for me. And it just meant also that if I did certain actions that most people would see benefit from to lose weight, I had to do them 10 times harder to get the same results. And it's something that maybe a lot of your listeners that struggle with weight loss, you feel that, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything right, and yet nothing is moving the needle. It could be that you've got unresolved trauma, unresolved stress, something that's non-related to what you're doing. You're doing great in your diet. You're doing great in your exercise routine, but maybe you're not meditating. Maybe you're not kind of de-stressing. And one of the things, Karen, during this sabbatical that I'm going to actively try to work on is setting aside time each day where I deal with whatever it is that's on the mind. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you push it to the subconscious and you don't actively think about it. But I think if you set aside time and actively think about, not dwell on, but think about and go, okay, why do I feel this way? And is this something that's really worth worrying about? There's people out there, they worry about literally everything. I hate those people because it's like, why do that to yourself? You can control how you react to situations. And most things that happen are totally in your control.
Yeah, 100%.
So if you've got it in your control, just don't do it and don't allow that to happen. And then if they're out of your control, make the conscious decision. This is not something I can control. Therefore, I'm not going to get upset about it. I'm going to respond in an appropriate way. And then it's for your benefit. And when you realize flying off the handle does no good, why not just handle it in stride? It's a skill I'm working on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's like changing your perception of stress. I think that's such a great way to de-stress the body, is to just simply change your perception of situations, right? It's like, okay,
most of the time it's not nearly as grim as people think.
No.
One of the questions that has really helped me is, will this matter 1 year from now? Whatever it is you're worrying about, will it matter a year from now? And about 99% of the time, no.
Yeah. Or if I stress about this, is it actually going to help the situation? No.
The toilet seat being left up, is that going to matter a year from now? Really, it's not. Sorry.
It would matter to me a year from now. Just kidding.
You're still up a year from now. You're in big trouble, Jimmy.
No. So what are some of, like, you've talked to over 1,300 health professionals. You've got advice coming at you
Yeah.
weekly. What are you going to do on this 6-month sabbatical besides work on, changing your perception of stress? What
Yeah.
tools are you going to make sure that you've got in place out of all the things that you've learned? What are you going to be taking with you?
Great question. So the biggest thing I'm doing is just getting out of the race.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been go, 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 go 15 years in a row, like literally without a break here. It's helped make me successful, but it's also been contributory to why I'm having maybe some inflammatory things that aren't going away, why I have weight on the body and that kind of thing. So for me, just totally getting off of all social media, totally getting away from doing any podcast, which is going to drive me crazy because I love podcasting. Just totally not doing any of the work that I've done that's defined who I am for 15 years. When it comes September 1st and that's the first day and I'm up at 4:30 as I always am in the morning and I got nothing to do, it's going to be weird. I mean, where do I go? But I think it's going to move me in new directions of, okay, when I don't have to do things, what do I do?
Yeah.
So does it mean I go walk? We have a mountain home. Do I go walk in the woods early in the morning and just be amongst my own thoughts? Will new ideas pop in my head that maybe have always been there, but I hadn't heard them because of the noise of keto, exercise, primal, and all this stuff. When all that goes away and I'm not thinking about those things, what will pop in this head?
Yeah.
Kind of excited about that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
kind of anxiety though too. Do you not think?
One more time.
Kind of anxiety though too, like just knowing that you're going to have to go through a detox, a social media detox, a work detox, like to bring that system down.
Right. I think the over under is 10 days of, will Jimmy go crazy under 10 days or over 10 days? But yeah, it's going to be a adjustment period. But this is one reason I wanted to go 6 months, Karen. I could have easily said, I'm doing 1 month, but it might take me a month to get over.
I think it will. Yeah.
15 years of go, 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 go. I hope not. I hope it doesn't take that long. But I'm going to be occupying myself with various things. I'm a biohacker at heart, so I'm going to use the infrared sauna. I'm going to do nature walks. I'm going to do cold thermogenesis. I'm going to actively try to get even stronger lifting heavy stuff. And I'm going to try to commit. When I heard Jack Dorsey, the guy that's the CEO of Twitter, did 2 hours of meditation a day.
Oh, like, wow. Okay, yeah.
He does 2 hours a day. I'm going to make a goal of 1 hour a day. Maybe. So I don't know if I'll get there in 6 months, but my goal is to get to 1 hour. Can you imagine how your life could change if you could commit to 1 hour of meditation a day? I wouldn't have to go away for 6 months ever again.
No, you wouldn't. You really wouldn't. Yeah. Deepak Chopra does it for 4 hours. He gets up at 4 a.m. or something like that, like something crazy, 4 hours a day.
Incredible.
Yeah. He must be he looks really healthy too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like he's doing something right for sure. How are you going to eat? Like, are you going to stick, are you going to play around with your diet at all?
No, I in January this year, you've heard carnivores kind of come on pretty strong.
Yeah.
And I tried carnivore and I got not quite good results, but I thought, you know what, let me tweak the macros to make them keto, which is not hard. Carnivore is about maybe 65, 70% fat and the rest protein, no carbs. So I pushed the fat up to like 75 to 80% and the rest protein. And I've seen really good results. I felt good. Insulin is lower than it's been. All the markers are going in the right direction. So I'm going to keep eating keto carnivore. I'm going to implement periods of fasting. When I'm not lifting, the days I'm not lifting, I'll just fast. The days I'm lifting, I'll lift in a fasted state and then eat fat and protein. I'm pretty dialed in nutritionally. That's never been my problem. It's all this other stuff that's different.
Is there concern about fasting and going super low carb if your adrenals are shot?
Well, and they are shot.
Yeah.
I could go so deep on this one.
Oh, I know. I want to hear it because my opinion is, because I've known for myself, I've seen other people who've gone too low carb, they fasted and they don't feel well because their adrenals are shot.
Right. I don't have that problem. I actually have the opposite issue. When I fast, Karen, I get a boost of energy. I feel even better. And I know that's not everybody's experiences. That's why there's strategic carb ups that I'm in favor of for certain people, because you do feel better. And if it gives you that benefit, my philosophy is find what works for you. But for me, it's been brilliant. And I don't know why that it feels good for me, but I just know it works for me. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Probably because you're a man too. I think that has a lot to
Probably.
do with it.
Yeah.
Men seem to do far better. Like it raises your testosterone. It
Yeah.
just like my
Human
husband
growth
can do it.
hormone.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the hormonal thing. There's a factor of that in there for women compared to men for sure.
And I have seen my testosterone go from around 300 to almost 700 just doing keto carnivore.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
Weights and fasting. So yeah, there's definitely veracity to that. And yeah, and I felt every bit of that, because like when a man gets higher testosterone, you feel it before you have higher testosterone. And I felt not more manly. I've never felt not manly, but I felt the strongness and just I felt good again from that perspective.
Yeah, my husband said the same thing. He was like, I just feel like we didn't test it. We just knew. He started fasting and suddenly he was like, he could
Yeah.
see it in him. Like his testosterone went up. His sex drive went
Hear me
up.
roar.
Yeah. Do you ever do carb ups yourself, or have you played around with adding more carbs in your diet just to see if that makes a change?
You know what's interesting? My insulin resistance has improved a lot since you and I last talked.
Yeah.
Uh, and I probably do have a little more metabolic flexibility to do that. But then my question back to that is, why would I do it when I feel so good with what I do? So
Yeah.
no, I don't do them. If it ever came to a point where I felt like I got some kind of a benefit from that and could still feel well, then obviously I'm open to any new idea. But for me, it's a hard no, because why? I feel good with what I'm doing.
And is it still can it still be a runaway train for you and bring back an addiction to carbs?
See, the thing is, I've been off of it so long, I don't think that addictive pathway is still there as strongly. Obviously, I think if you've been addicted, you're always addicted. Just like if you've been an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. I think it's very easy to slip back into that. Possibly, Karen, that would keep me on the straight and narrow, knowing the bad experience from the past and knowing that I could slip back into that. I don't think that, because I'm conscious now about my nutrition, that if I had something like that, yeah, you get the carb cravings, you get the everything, but I think I have enough fat adaptation that it would overcome that. It wouldn't overtake me.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to agree. I would think that you've been out of it for so long, but you do have to, I always look at it like an alcoholic or a drug addict. It's like, even though it's been 20 years, if you still gave them a drink, many of them, and I think a lot of people need to know that it can still be the same. Like food addiction is just
Right.
as bad as any other addiction.
I will tell you, the binge eating thing is more than the carb thing. Because it's easy to say, well, it's keto, it's carnivore, it's paleo, it's primal, therefore I'll eat a little more of it and it's no big deal. That's probably as bad as overdoing it on the carbs in my eyes. And that's how it can sneak back in, and you don't even realize it, because, well, it's all legal foods, not realizing that maybe you didn't need to eat as much.
Yes. Yeah. But you're not one for calorie counting or.
I am not. I am not. Because I think
Hallelujah.
when you get into that mindset that it's a calorie thing, then you totally get your eye off the ball of what's important. And what's important is controlling your hormones and feeling good and having all these health markers. Everybody likes to focus on the weight. I need to cut my calories so my weight, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, no, get your health markers in order. And if you are a healthy person, then your weight will come in order from that. We've got it backwards. We say lose weight to get healthy. I say get healthy to lose weight.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Are you going to be do you feel like you haven't dealt with your trauma as a child? Like, are you going to be facing those demons during this time?
Oh, I'm already talking to the life coach.
Yeah.
And she's helped tremendously. In fact, she's the reason I'm doing the sabbatical. I met her at the Nutritional Therapy Association conference a couple years ago. They're like, hey, we want to do a panel on keto. You know anybody? yeah, we know you. So I led the panel on the keto, but I was walking around the floor, and I hug everybody at conferences, and that's just kind of my jam. And she started talking to me, and then she started getting really deep, really fast. And 3 minutes later, I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm going, who is this lady? I found out she's a licensed therapist. Oh, thanks. Yeah. But she really put it on my radar screen that I needed to get away. Mm-hmm. And so she was the reason I was going away. I said, okay, you're the one getting me to go away. You got to help me work through this head stuff. So I am dealing with it. I'm a whole lot better than before starting talking to her. Even before I'm gone on the sabbatical, I've already been talking to her. Some of this stuff's coming out in the open. Some of it, even before I go, I've been talking about in my work on Instagram Live and doing lives, kind of just being real honest with people. And yeah, it's felt good kind of going in a different direction, talking about some of the emotional stuff, because again, it's something nobody ever talks about as to why we got to where we were to begin with.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're doing it, because I think somebody like you to share that, or like me, it's going to help other people to face their demons and to heal it. I know I say this all the time with my own journey. Everyone's like, well, what did you do? What diet did you do? What did you do with your hormones? And I tell everybody what I did, but then I always say, but the biggest change was when I went to a therapist at that time and looked at my stuff and looked at my disconnect that I had with my body because of trauma that I went through. And they're like, oh, okay. You know, and it's like, you gotta deal with it.
It's a little bit taboo, because I think people hear therapist and they think totally broken and can't get your life together on your own. And so people have this mentality that therapy is, you avoid that like the plague. And I'm like, having kind of gone through this a bit and seeing the benefit, if you had any trauma whatsoever and you don't go through that and really give it a go, you're just depriving your body of healing taking place. And if you don't heal now, you're going to break later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll come back. We know that, right? It
never
comes
goes
back.
Away.
No, it doesn't. And it'll start manifesting in illness inside your body if you haven't dealt with it. So deal with it, you guys. Deal with it.
Deal with it.
Deal with it, damn it. And it doesn't even have to be a therapist. Like, I think a lot of people say it's taboo, like, a therapist. And I remember thinking that too. It's like, well, I know what happened to me. I don't need that shit. I don't need that. And I did I went through the journey of a therapist for 2 years, but I also found somebody that did energy healing. And that was my groundbreaking, like, big aha. And I saw her for 7 years, and it was what totally shifted everything for me. So it might not be a therapist. You might just need to find that someone that can help you, or that technique, or whatever it is, meditation, that just helps you to get to that place and deal with it.
Yeah. Non-food therapy is glorious.
It's glorious. Yeah.
Food therapy is what got you into the mess to begin with your weight and health. Non-food therapy is what's going to get you out.
Mm-hmm. Now I heard you say that you've lost so far already 40 pounds. Now, is that from the shift of the diet, or because
you're just slowing down,
slowing down your stress?
Literally slowing down.
You guys, did you hear that? Like,
slowing down.
I need people to really hear this loud and clear, because stress is something that we don't ever pay attention to. We don't want it to be, because it's so normal. Our society is so, like you just said, so you've been working for 15 years, you're a podcaster, you're an author, you're no different than my husband, who is a crane operator and works 12-hour shifts, and like me, who's here all day. Like, we all are working. It all seems so normal, and nobody thinks it's the stress. They hear this, they hear you and I talking, but they think, well, no, I don't feel stressed. I'm happy. But yet you can't lose that belly fat. Right?
It is amazing, Karen, because when I started slowing down in the month of May, I totally backed off of all my podcasts. I ran repeats in May and June. It was more kind of a trial run of what being away 6 months was going to feel like. And yeah, when I saw major weight loss and how I felt, like suddenly it felt like I had weights coming off of my shoulder. I had literal weight coming off my body, but just the weight of the world coming off my shoulders. I started having this flood of emotion, and all of the kind of thoughts of, and it's the trauma I now know, but just the thoughts of how I got here and becoming a lot more reflective. I really did become the old man suddenly, because I was so reflective on my life, and All these things just came on, and literally all I did was slow down. Didn't stop, still in the day-to-day, still doing my thing, but recognizing something had to give, which is why I'm kind of excited about doing nothing for 6 months and being amongst all my thoughts without having any external stresses from ugly people telling me I'm fat online and I have no business talking about health, blah, 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 all the bullshit I've had.
It's been horrible.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. And I seem to attract those people more than most people do. But at the end of the day, I know who I am. I don't have to apologize for who I am. And when I'm away and I ostensibly lose 100 pounds just from the slowdown of the stress, it's going to be profound. It's going to be, I'm trying to be, as I always have been, a leader in health. And if I can show, hey, look, guys, this was how it impacted me. Not everybody can go away 6 months, but they can say, whoa, I need to commit to that hour or 2 hours a day. It's worth it to get that stress under control.
Yeah, absolutely. And those people have been absolutely horrible. I see that. I love that you post them, number one, just to say, look at what I've received from this jackass. And being in this industry, I mean, even myself, I just went through a thyroid issue where I packed on 10 pounds in a month, and I was just like, I'm like, thank God people just see me from here up, but it's terrifying when we're in the spotlight. We're the leaders, we're the health leaders. We're not supposed to gain weight. The pressure's on us, which makes it contributes to the weight gain because it's so much more for us, I think.
It's such a shame, Karen, that we live in such a culturally, you have to look and fit in a box in a certain way. I think I, as someone with extra weight on the body, probably speak to more people directly than all the perfect 6-pack, 12-pack models ever will.
Yeah.
And I've had people write me. They're like, I'm so glad you talk about your struggle. I'm so glad you look like me, because I feel like I relate to you so much more. And taking nothing away from some of the ones that might be fitness models that look good and they worked hard to get there. Kudos to you. But I'm not talking to that crowd of people. I'm talking to the crowd of people that do struggle. And I think it gives people hope if they see a Jimmy Moore, Karen Martell dealing with struggles in the day-to-day, having a thyroid issue that pops on 10 pounds. For me, dealing with unresolved trauma in my past. All of these things matter. Mm-hmm. And it gives people hope that they too can overcome.
Yeah, I believe everything happens for a reason. And I always, like, when I went through my thyroid issue, well, now I'm like a complete expert on thyroid now. So I think if that didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be helping all the people I'm helping now.
That's right.
Can't get the help out there that they need. And I see that that's happening for you too, because I know that if you can come out on the other side of this, you are going to affect so many people's lives with your story to say, look, here's what I had to. You had all the advice in the world from 1,300 experts. And it was really about you taking care of your body and taking care of the trauma and loving yourself, really.
All the above.
All the above. Yeah. And the real challenge, and I know you know this, your 6 months is going to be great, but it's what are you going to do when you come back? Because this is what got you, this go has contributed to where you are now.
Right.
It can't be the same.
No.
You have to do it different.
Right. I'm already putting things in place, Karen, to make things different. I just retired my Friday podcast. So I did a podcast called the Keto Hacking MD podcast. We've ended my Monday podcast. So now what's left is Living La Vida Low Carb, which ain't ever going anywhere.
Good.
And Keto Talk, which is my favorite and most popular podcast. And then my little show, Jimmy Rants, that I do on Instagram. So those will be my core when I come back. I'll put all my efforts into those. And then just handling that criticism, which has been relentless. Pretty much on a daily basis, I get some semblance of about a dozen comments about my weight, about something. But here's the fun part. So I come back and I've lost 100 pounds. Probably going to happen. I'll come back. I'm much more physically strong, much more mentally different, and just wisdom will probably come out of my mouth. Somebody will find some fault in that.
Yeah.
So if that's true and they're going to be ugly anyway, okay, why would I ever be upset by that? And so even now I'm already saying, okay, they're going to do that anyway. Let's just not really give it any credence and move on. And so even now, before I'm even gone, some of that healing is already happening.
Mm-hmm. And you just have to think, well, this is what I think when I get it. I think the poor person, I feel sorry for them that they feel that they need to say something cruel to another person to hurt their feelings. Yeah. That just to me is like, what kind of person are you that you would even say that?
Yeah. And what's funny, I've been at this so long, 15 years I've been at this. I remember the first time I got it was like on our YouTube videos. My wife, Christine, and I used to do this show before I did podcasts. And we get on there and they would call her like Four Eyes because she wore glasses and oh, you look gay, talking about me and just all this kind of stuff. And it was a precursor of kind of this ugliness that is society now. In 2020, Karen, it's going to be even worse with the political election and it's just going to get so vitriolic. And I'm trying to put out the message, let's flip the script, guys. Be overly kind to other people.
Yes.
Overly encouraging, go the whole opposite direction and don't engage in that negativity, because that negativity will be a trauma in your life and will lead to stress that will be unresolved, and then you wonder why you can't lose any weight. It's all interconnected, what we're talking about here today.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I always say you kill them with kindness. Right? Like really go back at it with kindness. And I've had to do that in my own. I just got somebody wrote me a huge long email. How dare I try to make money off of the health industry? And I'm like, and that keto, it was about keto specifically, and how dare I try to make money off the keto diet and people trying to get healthier. And at first I was ready just to rip it back. And then I was like, no, got to kill them with kindness. And I did. And I was like, some people really just need a professional and they want somebody to help them. And this is my job. And if I have to spread the word, I got to make money or else I can't do it. You know, I just was like super, I never heard back, of course, because there was nothing she could say.
Oh no. You did a mic drop is what you did. Yeah. I get that same one all the time, Karen. Oh, who are you to write Keto Clarity? I'm like, I did write Keto Clarity.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And it's changed lives. If it's not good enough, go ahead and show me how to do it better. Like I've been mocked for my podcasting style because I'm a little goofy. That's just my style.
It's great.
And
clearly it's working, Jimmy. Right? Like.
And so I'm like, okay, if you can podcast better, just go ahead and show me how it's done and I'll listen and see how you do.
Yeah. And, you know, when you look at the big picture, you've literally helped hundreds of thousands of people. I know you were a part of my journey getting here. And I know from how many people actually tell me like, oh, Karen, I heard of you because you're on Jimmy Moore's podcast. And so because of you, they've come to me and I've been able to help them. And so your touch goes a long ways out there in the world. And I think that those naysayers can shove it where the sun don't shine. They're always going to be there. And that's not who you are. And I think that's what you need to embrace is that's not you.
And I do. I do embrace it. And I do when I stop and think about the impact of the work I've had, Karen, I shudder because I don't deserve any of that. But it's been cool. I won't lie. It's been really cool.
Yeah. Well, I want you to enjoy your 6-month sabbatical.
Oh, I will.
Fuck up every minute. I'm like, God, that sounds so good. I was happy to get a week this summer of not being plugged in. I went somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi and it was like, oh, this is so nice. And you know what? You're right. When you do get into it, it might take you a while, but still at the same time, there's such a joy and a peace about being disconnected and not having to do anything.
I'll wait for that. I'll wait for the peace part because my brain is like,
so is mine. Yeah.
It's like slowing that down. Okay. I can imagine like day one. Okay. I'm going to be like on a detox, like a drug addict. You know, okay.
I better go meditate, I guess. Yeah. Let's go meditate for a bit.
You go get in an ice bath for 3 hours.
Yeah. I think you're going to find that you're going to have you're such a creative guy. And I know that you think it's going to be so hard to turn your brain off and you might not be able to, but you'll be surprised at these amazing little nuggets that you're going to discover in the next 6 months.
I'm going to write them all down.
Yeah. You're going to have such amazing ideas because that's what happens to me when I actually don't have to do anything.
Right.
I can just let it come to me. my creativity, instead of like, okay, what am I going to do next? I'm going to do this, this, and this. It's like, that's when my best things come to me by far, is when I'm shut off. So
And
that's what's going to happen. You're going to come back bigger and better, man.
I'm going to have 5 years worth of content from 6 months off.
Yeah. You will. You better get yourself like a little notebook, actually.
Oh, the notebook is ready. The video journal is ready. I'm going to do all the things.
Your Netflix series, you've picked them out, right?
Oh, yeah. We're watching lots of Netflix. I promise you on that one.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I think your message will really hit home for a lot of my listeners. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen.